Managed access to markets and locations of economic activity is one of the non-pharmaceutical interventions rolled out by the federal government nationwide to limit the risk of COVID-19 transmission. But there have been concerns around its implementation and the public health implications of the non-adherence to these measures. Taking markets, for example. Joining us via Skype from the Amuwo-Odofin area of Lagos is a consultant public health physician, Dr. Modupe Akinyinka. Dr. Akinyinka, thank you for your patience and welcome to the program this evening. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
In spite of the fact that in 2 days, it will be 14 weeks since the index case of COVID-19 in Nigeria was diagnosed, from some of the reports there from some of the states, you still have people saying that there's nothing called coronavirus, there's nothing like COVID-19, and they will not, as a result, be taking measures to protect themselves or others. These are at markets where a lot of people go.
Yes, it's a real pity that we have that happening right now, that people, even after 3 months in Nigeria, having cases, and then with the heightened number of cases that we have, having people still disbelieving that there's no coronavirus, then it's a real problem, and we need to sort that out. We need to engage with people at the community level, at their different levels of the community. We need to engage with them so that people can understand that this thing is something that is actually with us right now. And it's not just here, it's also in other parts of the world. If they listen to news, they would see that Nigeria is not the only country that is affected by this. And so we need to be able to communicate that fact to our people by engaging them from the grassroots, you know, from the leaders of the people, the people that the community gatekeepers, people that people respect within the community, then the heads of the groups, for example, the market heads, you know, the heads of the different associations in those places, like maybe sellers of computers and all of those, you know, those groups that they have, because they all have groups, Okada rider groups, their heads, you know, the different community groups, the heads of these groups, so that we can communicate this risk to them, so they can understand that this thing is something that is really on the fact that we can see people going to isolation centers, you know, being treated and then coming out of those isolation centers. So people need to know and believe that it is real so that they can protect themselves.
There's a problem with the structure of most markets in Nigeria. First of all, many of them are open and they're not constructed, so to speak, in such a way as to make it possible for you to separate one trader by 2 meters and so on, the kind of things that are now necessary to ensure that COVID-19 doesn't spread using those markets. Given that as the background, what really can be done now to mitigate the circumstances we find ourselves? One of those who responded in one of the reports there talked about the fact that because it's open air, is wherever you find space that you can put your wares and sell.
Yes, many of our markets are open air, and that would be an advantage, being open air, because at least you're sure that there's air blowing, and then the risk, you know, of getting it may not be as much as if they were in enclosed spaces. But now, the closeness, the proximity of the people in the market is now the issue. So each person would have to take that responsibility for themselves and be able to ensure that once I'm here, then I shouldn't have somebody that is too close to me. If that person is not a member of my family, we're not living in the same house, right? And if customers come, it's not until my nose is almost touching the customer before I can attend to that customer, right? I wear my own mask, and then the customer also wears his or her own mask. And then, so it's something that it has to be that we take personal responsibility So each person has to take personal responsibility, because there is so much that government can do. You know, they can't now start to rebuild all the markets. So those markets whereby they are so close, now they don't need to have all the people that they usually have there. So the minimum number of people to be able to attend to customers adequately, and then ensuring that they are maintaining that physical distance to protect themselves. Because if we don't do this and people don't take responsibility like this, then we're going to have, a huge increase in the number of cases. Because many of these people that are in the markets, and then that also visit the markets, once they come to those markets, they may get infected if they do not practice, all of this. They don't put into place all these strategies and are making use of them. They're not wearing their face masks. They're not washing their hands. They are being too close to people. All right. So if they get infected, fine. They may be part of that 80% of the cases that will be asymptomatic, but then they will go home, and in their houses they will have people that are vulnerable, and these vulnerable people will get infected. And once they get infected, then we have, that increased number of people that need isolation centers for treatment. And of course, once we start having that, then we're going to be having more deaths. And we shouldn't.
Thank you very. I'm sorry, Dr. King.
allow-
I'm sorry. I have to cut you in because we've completely run out of time. But I believe that you have made the point, and we will return to the issue of markets when the various state governments have come out with their own specific guidelines for the markets, and I'm sure we will be speaking with you on that and how to proceed from there. Dr. Modupe Akiyinka is a consultant public health physician, and she joined us today from Amuwodofi in Lagos. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much for having me on the program. It was a pleasure.